hello again to those who have heard me before today. Sorry, you have to suffer another presentation. But this time I'll focus a bit on something else, on startup city. Sounds really flashy, really kind of high tech. But as a spoiler, I can kind of I can tell you that in Tartu we don't really mean it, understand it as flashily as it maybe sounds. So, but I'll talk you through, and the main kind of idea here. I think it works really well after Lucy's presentation, where Lucy went maybe more into detail on the changes, and here I would like to talk about how we approach the change itself, or in the broader context, or kind of in a more general how we should make changes in the cities. So I'll start with what a city really is. Light topic, easy to answer. But basically, how we can understand it is as a place that brings different people together. As Aristotle a long time ago said, a city is composed of different kinds of people. We say today, similar people cannot bring the city into existence, which was true back then, is true today, and will be true in the future, because this is what cities are really about different people coming together, working together, interacting with each other. And here you saw a glimpse into Tartu as well. This is Tartu's freedom or future freedom avenue before the Second World War, where people did meet, people did interact. That was how it functioned. But at the same time, we have enormous issues today in the society, but especially pronounced in the cities. You can call it the three-headed monster if you like: climate change, loss of biodiversity, pollution. You can add social capital, loss of social capital in there. You can add many issues there, actually. So let's call it the many-headed monster instead. But what is clear is that we need to change something. This monster is so terrifying that we definitely need to do something. But then the question arises: what is this real change or real innovation? We go into this startup language. What do we need to bear in mind when making change? In which direction do we need to go? And I think it's really beneficial or really important to look into the past, to look into the underlying bigger trends or bigger ideas that underlie these development directions that we have been headed in, to understand what do we really need to change, how we need to, what is real change. So when we look into the past couple hundred years, and we look into city building, city planning, then the kind of dominant narrative has been efficiency. So you can see it here. Barcelona's a long time ago example, Paris, and the key word here is efficiency. That's what it's planned around. And it's completely understandable because it stems from the issues of 19th century cities. They were crowded, overcrowded. There were issues with hygiene. So this kind of innovations like pissoir in Paris, was absolutely necessary because people were literally pissing on the street. So this was really good innovation. Similarly, in London, there was the Great Stink. There was the real issues with hygiene, and as a result, they came up with a really good sewer system, which really changed the way we plan cities even today, or how cities were being planned and built. But and these, as I said, you can really understand where we were coming from, why this efficiency was, or efficiency-based engineering mindset was needed, was beneficial. But soon it kind of got out of hand, and really quickly we arrived at these kind of extremes where human interactions as the centerpiece or core property of cities was kind of replaced by this efficiency thinking. So here you have, Le Corbusier's city as a machine, and that took us to auto utopia, and that's really where we are today. It's not a utopia anymore, and this of course has created a lot of issues. It's created social isolation, isolated people, isolated societies, and funnily enough, it really hasn't delivered on its promise of efficiency either. And that was kind of clear, long ago. Start of the 20th century. We saw that we have a lot of means to travel, but we don't really have freedom of movement. We don't really have free ways, do we? The free ways aren't freely moving places. And that's, I think a lot of it can be explained with Jevons's paradox, which says that if you focus on efficiency, if you increase efficiency, that can bring about a rise in consumption, because it's cheaper, it's easier, the access to a good is better, so you can consume more of it, you can produce more of it, you can consume more of it. And this, with consumption comes pollution, comes loss of space, comes the many-headed monster. Really, this is what has brought us this far. This focus on efficiency, which has created pollution problems, and has also created these social issues, because it has replaced the really important human element that has been underlying cities for centuries, really. And this critique, of course, is not new. Well, there have been thinkers who have pointed these issues out a long time ago. Camilla Sitte, Jane Jacobs, who have said and have been really adamant about it, that cities can't be planned from above. In that sense, a work of art, kind of a just from a plane's view, kind of nice shapes and nice orderly efficiency, but that you have to, that was Jane Jacobs' real point, that you have to focus on the highly complex interactions between people happening on the ground, really, because that is what really makes a city, isn't it? And coming back to Tartu, coming back to Freedom Avenue, and again to the year 1939, this really is a city that Jane Jacobs would have liked, or that has incorporated some of these principles. It is a city that is focused on the interactions of people, between people. And here we had the buildings on the left. Many of them sadly were destroyed in the Second World War. And then when the Soviet era came, the space was rebuilt real quickly and very differently, with very different ideas underlying it. You can see the kind of bustling, vibrant space replaced by a huge road that was used for Soviet era parades. And well, it's 3 years ago, it was pretty much the same. If you look at it, it's not much has changed. Trees are bigger, but the kind of built space is the same really big road, which is again You have to think about the ideas or the trends underlying this. And this is very much based on that kind of efficiency thinking. And if we want to change this, if we want to solve our many-headed monster problems, and we want to make sure that the change we make is effective, then we really do need to think about these underlying ideas here and make sure that we don't kind of innovate in following the same trends, that we actually break this trend. And that is really what City of Tartu did. And a year later, it looked like this, which is, I think it's a really amazing change. Think about it, how very clearly efficiency ideas-based this space is, and how very clearly opposite and people-based and interaction-based this space is. So here the ideas have really been, City of Tartu made really sure not to fall into the same trends trap. And how it came about was during COVID lockdown in 2020, when the social issues were kind of magnified, because there had been people were starving of social contact, or they had been locked up in the homes. The weather was getting nice, and city realized people wanted to interact and needed a safe space to do so, and that's partly, at least, why Car-Free Avenue was born, and how it was justified, how its necessity was made clear. And as you can see here, Car-Free Avenue took up one really wide road and made it into something entirely different. Due to the COVID pandemic, 2 by 2 meters modules were used to enable social distancing, and it was, as I said earlier, that's truly a different idea, a different mindset behind it, and it was. I think it's interesting that it was something kind of unexpected, a crisis that brought forth the idea, but how it made us notice the kind of longer term crisis or longer term problems and issues we have in the city, and how people really embraced this new space. We had 200 plus events, plus partners, 150,000 visits altogether, which it was a bit difficult to organize it in the first year because of the COVID pandemic. We couldn't really make many commercialized events or something that would bring a lot of people together. There were outdoor cinemas, events for all different kinds of event groups. You saw children. The pool was a roaring success. It's truly something special. And also for biodiversity, we are lucky to have our curated biodiversity team who are making really exciting projects come to life, and this was one of them. And of course, social media presence is really important nowadays. I should make an Instagram account. I think we got an account for Tartu as well. I've been trying to make an account, but won't let me for some reason. Made me think. Sorry, but of course, looking back, it was a huge success, and it's sounds like a really logical thing to do. Why not do it? But it wasn't perceived that way at the beginning. The whole project was branded as like absurd avenue or mindless avenue. It's a mind-free avenue. It was kind of a play of words with the Car-Free Avenue in Estonian. And there was a lot of pushback because it was a really radical change to take that much space away from cars and make it into something else. And I think it's also, as I pointed out, people didn't really realize the bigger problems. And that's the issue with big change, I think, is that people lack imagination, because this is something they haven't experienced. They haven't had first-hand contact to see what it offers, and it just seems weird, really. And this is the mindless avenue, or absurd avenue term was coined by a local journalist. But the interesting thing is that a month after he had coined this term, and he had actually experienced the car-free avenue, he changed his mind and did so publicly, which takes a lot of courage. So huge respect to him, and publicly said, "Yeah, I was wrong. This is a great event." And we found out that was pretty much the story for a lot of the people of Tartu, because when we asked them afterwards, when they had already experienced the event, what they thought about it, a huge majority thought it was a good idea. 30% or almost 30% thought it should be permanent. It was only one month, I think, first year or two. I'm not quite sure. And 25% still didn't think it was a good idea. We found there was a really strong correlation with visiting the place as well. So those people who didn't like it, a lot of them hadn't visited it. So that again, well, I mean, you don't have to visit it. It's their choice. But it again just goes to show that this personal contact, personal experience is really, really important when accepting change and seeing the necessity for it. I mean, these 30% already saw that there's we should do more. It created a demand for more of this. And this is why we did it, to really change the perception, change the ideas, and change the way society functions, really, bit by bit, in the sense that
Just showing them
yeah. Because it might start small and just in one place, but really by changing these spaces and changing the ideas underlying them, we can bit by bit start changing the kind of bigger narratives in society, and that's why we did it in 2020, and that's why we did it in 2021 again, and and that's why we're doing it this year. And this year, as was mentioned, we are taking a step further. We thought that this previous format had kind of done its job, in the sense that it had changed the narratives and ideas and understandings around space in the way they could. And now we feel like we can take another step and focus on other areas of the city as well. And with this area, also try to make the changes more similar to permanent changes that we would like to affect there. So this is again goes to show how these, once you start rolling the snowball, or you start making these bold changes, how you can build on them. You can go forward with even more ambition after that, and take on bigger and bigger bits. And yeah, that's the way we see Startup City, and we see innovation. That it doesn't have to be something technological innovation. It has to be a narrative based or kind of ideas based innovation to really tackle the issues, the many-headed monsters we have today. And yeah, we'll continue to do it, and I hope this inspired some of you. Thank you.